And this is our problem. But foundation aid was never fully funded. Did you know they have actually underfunded all your districts simultaneously with the GEA by this amount of foundation aid? So you're not only short what I had on the previous slide, this amount, you're short this amount right here in the center piece, right here. This is the money that was promised to you. Oh yeah, I want to start a pre-K program and you're going to promise to pay me later. You still owe me this amount for the foundation aid that never came up. You add these two slides together and you've got a monumental amount of cash. Look at this. This is huge. Can you imagine somebody walking in and saying, Herkimer County, let me help you out. Here's $100 million. That's what they owe you. Now, a senator gave a number of my colleagues this little chart. And this is the part that kills me. After what I've instructed you on, let's just test out your understanding now. So we're going to stop and check for understanding. All right? It's a teaching technique. Here we go. So what this chart says is they said in the year 12-13, which was the year before last, that the wealthiest school district in the state got $1,651 a child on average, and the poorest got $13,422. So there you go, Rick. The poorest school districts get more money than do the wealthiest. I never said they didn't. I know they do. But as Gracie will tell you, the first three cushions got more than the fourth cushion, but they still couldn't buy lunch. Because what's in the poorest school district? It's a heavier lift. Kids who live in poverty, more difficult to educate them. Kids who don't speak English, more difficult. Higher special education populations, more difficult. So what actually happens here is they were trying to prove a point. I said, well, let's use the rest of the data, though. Let's kind of put it all together. Let's compare it to where they should be. So does that graph, the bar graph at the bottom, match the line graph on the top? No. You know why? Because their wealthiest school district is 8 times wealthier than the poorest school districts. The problem is, that's not reality. The wealthiest school districts are 14.5 times wealthier than the poorest school districts. In other words, could you use all the data? Can you imagine me going to the first three cushions when they couldn't buy lunch and they turned to me and say, geez, Rick, I can't buy lunch? I said, oh, come on, give me a break. I just gave you more money. It's insufficient. So if you really figure it out, and Gracie could figure it out for you, that technically, if you want to pay the wealthiest school district $1,651, you go right ahead. But then you'd have to pay the wealthiest at the proper ratio, $23,940 a kid. Oh, you don't want to do that because you don't have enough money? No problem. You only want to pay them $13,422? Fine. Then you can only pay these people $926. You can't have it both ways because anything else would be inequitable. It wouldn't be fair, and it wouldn't be sufficient. And it's a fourth grade concept, and I don't know why they can't get it. So here's their graph. So what I did is I made it so I can actually do a comparison. So I'm going to try my best. I got a little clicker here. I'm going to try and make a cartoon for you. Okay? I know we're in a high-tech era, so when you see this, you're going to laugh a little bit, but I think it's going to be instructive. So this is the distribution of state aid based on what the senators gave me. Okay? Now, here, that was last year. This is the current year. So I'm going to try and click this as best I can. Here goes. Okay? Last year, this year. Last year, this year. Last year, this year. What do you see? They all went up. Everybody got more money, including Justin Bieber. Watch this, though. I want you to focus in on this section of the graph right here. Focus in on right here, this part. Watch this 1322 increase. Just watch it increase. Are you ready? Here, let me see if I can do it. Whoop. See it increase? 13,422 to 14,638. See, we got more. Isn't that great? All right, now let's watch this side of the graph over here. Now let's watch this side. These are the wealthiest school districts right here. 1651, 3595. Is anybody catching on what's happening here? Yeah. Here's what's happening. The wealthy school districts in the entire state of New York got $1,944 more per child. The poorest got $1,216. Matter of fact, the wealthiest got more than any other group. If state government helps us any more like that, we'll just die. Does everybody understand how it's making things worse? So these wealthy schools are doing great if they keep getting raises like that. And it's a problem. So theirs went up 117%, ours went up 9%. Of course, there were different bases. So the real key is to look at the dollar amounts. So here we are. Here's the state up to 8 again. 90% of all districts receive less state aid in 2013-14 than they did in 2008-9 without building aid. That's $1 billion less. That's the average. There's the arc that they should be following. These school districts need to be up here. This is how much these school districts are poor. Look at where they are, right here. This is you. You are here. You are below zero. You have less state aid right now. So when some of the taxpayers say, well, geez, what are you doing with all the money? It's not all the money. You actually have less money than you used to have. So if the state doesn't send you money and you rely on the state money to actually support your school districts, and you've already cut program staff and use fund balance, that's where the taxpayers come in. But we're loath to do it. We wouldn't need the taxpayers as much if we were above zero. Elimination of the GEA would at least probably get us to zero or close to it. The average for the state is 373. Now, in the governor's new budget, 81% of all school districts receive less state aid than they did in 8-9. Big deal. We're still on the bottom. Hey, so he could say, I helped out a lot of school districts. The only problem was, it wasn't you. I'm feeling a little neglected. We are using up fund balance. Now, school districts have reserves. Whoops, a daisy. School districts have reserves. We used up about $200 million of that across the state. We've used up fund balances, $83 million, almost $84 million, and we used up about $178 million in cash. We are draining money to balance these budgets. We are running out of money. Then I tried to figure out, we got a tax cap. The 2% tax cap, as everybody should know now, is not 2%. Part of the calculation now is not going to be a 2, it's going to be a 1.46%. Here's all the counties in the state of New York. Let me save you some trouble. None of the districts in the auditorium could increase their budgets by anything more than 1% and still hit the tax levy limit. Does everybody understand what I just said? So while they're draining your money, your costs are going to increase. They're going to try and push this back on you for the taxpayers. But you won't go for the taxpayers because we're loath to do it. So what will we do? We will do what we've always done. We'll cut staff, the program, and use fund balance. But we're running out of all three. Matter of fact, we're running out so much, I actually figured it out. I started looking at districts and said, if you couldn't keep the amount of money you use against taxes every year, 37 districts, they could use up all their cash in about a year or less. I've got about 131 under 2 years,